Happy Festivus, Bills Mafia. Welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Forecast. I'm your host, Travis Blakesley. Here on the Cold Front Report, we have our good friend, the return of EJ Daniels. How you doing, EJ?
Trav, what's going on, man? Thank you for having me. Nice to talk
Thanks.
some Bills on this busy Friday night.
Yeah, definitely. It's very busy. A lot of things happening. But before we get into it, let's just remind the viewers that you can like, subscribe, share on any social media platform. If you can't catch us live, you can always rewatch on those platforms or any podcast service of your choosing. Just search Cold Front Report. But yeah, I mean, we got a big victory last week. Like we said in the pre-show, nothing unexpected. The game was a little closer than we thought, but that's not why we're here today. It seems like a lifetime ago. A lot of news, EJ. Let's jump into it. We got COVID issues. Do the Bills have the depth to combat it? I know we spoke a lot in the preseason about the depth of this team, and we all were pretty much on the same page that we had solid depth at key positions. It looks to be tested. So point blank period. Do we have the depth to combat COVID?
I think so. They haven't been hit at too many key positions. They got hit at wide receiver, obviously, and offensive line. I think those are the biggest two. But again, the Bills came into the season with, I believe, 7 or 8 wide receivers. So now you're gonna have to tap into that now. Kumaro, Gentry, maybe we might even be able to see Hodgins. Hopefully, Sanders will be back. But I don't think they got hit too hard. But as we saw last game, the loss of Deion Dawkins, Pro Bowl left tackle Deion Dawkins, that is probably the biggest loss, and that's probably where the Patriots are going to look to exploit. But I think overall, I don't think they got a hit as hard as they could have been.
Yeah, we seen weeks where there's 22 guys out, 11 starters. The Browns come to mind with, you lose an entire position group room, such as your quarterbacks. That's rough. I mean, these are key positions. I mean, Gabe Davis is pretty red hot so far. Like you mentioned, Deion Dawkins, the Pro Bowl left tackle, who, we weren't really worried, consider his vaccination status, about him coming back, but we haven't heard anything. I know they're not allowed to release a statement until he's removed. But I agree. So let's jump into that offensive line. What do you believe this offensive line is going to look like Sunday? We've seen so many moving pieces, and I believe that has a lot to do with the lack of success on offense, specifically to protection. What do you see this offensive line looking like on Sunday?
So here's a very far-fetched scenario. I went back and looked. So the Bills' highest graded game from a pass blocking and run blocking perspective is the Colts game. Even though they got trounced in that game, they did block the best that game. Now, they moved Darrell Williams to right tackle. So this was my O-line that I said that should be in here. And just stick with me. So I said, obviously Morris, obviously Boddicker, but I would like Ryan Bates at right guard, Darrell Williams at right tackle, and then Spencer Brown at left tackle. The reason I want to put Bates in there, because Bates is top 5 in both run blocking grade and pass blocking grade for the Bills on the team. Obviously, that's in limited snaps, but at this point, I don't want to trot Tommy Doyle out there to have to block somebody like Matthew Judon for half the snaps. I'd rather take a chance on Darrell Williams, who was a Pro Bowl left tackle last year, had a career year last year. Obviously, he got moved because he was struggling at the beginning of the year. I'd rather have him deal with Judon, him and Spencer Brown deal with Judon, because I feel like they're the best suited to deal with him. And then I feel like you should give Ryan Bates a shot. Seeing as guard isn't as valuable as the other offensive line positions, I think that would be most beneficial to at least try in this game.
Now, you may be a little shocked with this response, but I have the same exact offensive line as you.
Let's go.
I was thinking, I was thinking the same way. I am contrarian like you, but I can't argue with that. My thought process goes like this: where who's the sixth man off of the bench when we bring in heavy? It's Ryan Bates. Clearly, they trust him in those short run block scenarios. So if you're talking wedging him in guard, you don't take as big of a hit
Mm-hmm.
on pass protection. So I'm right there with you. I think that Bates brings the most experience, and he's been a guy who caught on with this roster, and he's just stuck around, and he's been bounced around from many positional groups. I think they like him inside or as that sixth blocker, and I think that inserting him there, you're going to limit more musical chairs. This is essentially the offensive line that started last week. We're just plugging and playing for Cody Ford, who we probably would have expected to play. Now, obviously, everything changes if Deion Dawkins plays. Hopefully, he does. That kind of bumps it back down to what we've seen a lot this season, where you have Darrell Williams slide back into guard. Spencer Brown goes slotted at the right tackle, and I think we're in better shape there. But obviously, you gotta predict, or not predict, but get yourself prepared for the worst case scenario. And as of right now, I think you and me are kind of onto something. Because outside of that, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to promote someone who hasn't played a ton?
Yeah,
There's a bunch of
start Bobby Hart at right or left tackle. Like, I'm not with
yeah,
that. We know what we're gonna get with that. I don't know why they keep
exactly.
signing him and like trying to put some hope in the Bills Mafia that it's gonna work out. We know that it's not gonna work out. We know this. We've seen this on not one but two teams this year when he was at the Titans and he got killed too. So I mean, I'm not with trying to go back to that experiment. Let Bates get an opportunity, put Darrell Williams back at right tackle, and let's just see how it goes. I mean, at this point, you really don't have too many other options.
No, and you mentioned Tommy Doyle. Well, the last time we saw Tommy Doyle was on a 3rd and long where he came in for an injured Dawkins. For whatever reason, they called a longer developing play, and he gave up the sack on Allen. So, it's not fair to put him at left tackle on a 3rd and long. But like you said, I mean, by now you pretty much know who you have. And I don't know. I don't know what Bobby Hart has been doing, and maybe some charity work. Maybe he's helping the ball boy after practice. But I get it. He has experience. He knows how to. He's played in the NFL. But I'm
Right.
right there with you. I mean, he's a guy where I would rather go with the youth movement
Mm-hmm.
over him. I mean, he's proved who he is the last 2 seasons, like you said, on multiple teams. This is not a guy who played well and then has kind of fell off. He started by default on a terrible offensive line in Cincinnati, and he found his way on and off our roster. And I don't really see the value of playing him.
Yeah.
And like Jay, this is a great comment. It's experience to cause injuries. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We you go on
Get
him.
Josh Allen killed off his blind playing around with Bobby Hartman. And then just to piggyback off your point, I don't understand why the Bills went out and signed another tackle. I do, but I don't. Now, I know Spencer Brown did not play the best, but let's just, even though I on Twitter said he didn't play the best, he was going against Brian Burns. He was going at a position where he was not used to playing, even though he said he was cool playing it. It's a difference between playing left tackle in college and then a left tackle against all pros and guys like Brian Burns. So I personally don't think that he played as bad as even I would suggest. I think I would be able to give him another shot, to see what he can do. Maybe he becomes a swing tackle and he becomes great at both. I think Spencer Brown is the Bills' second best lineman overall. He's the nastiest, obviously the most physically gifted, and he showed promise pretty much every game. Like I said, the Brian Burns game, Brian Burns is a dog, and I'm just not. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did what he can do. They still won the game despite him, Brian Burns, eating like that. But I think they could still rock out with Spencer Brown and be fine.
Well, I agree with you. He's obviously the most physical. He plays with an edge. He's one outside of John Feliciano. He's probably the only other guy where you can tell he has that dog mentality where he may lose a rep, but it's not gonna he uses it as motivation. I say, he
Yeah.
got benched for a couple plays because he was running hot. But I agree with you as far as he's probably the most athletic player on the Bills team. Like straight up, he's a freak. And Brian Burns is a speed rusher off that edge, and that's going to be a weakness for a guy that's
Right.
6'8" and just as long as he is, getting underneath him is going to be the
Right.
go-to. So
And then Brian Burns got moves on top of that. Like you saw, you put him in the blender with the spin move he did. He can rush with
Exactly.
power. Like he can rush you in many different ways. And he's been in the league, I believe, for this will be his third year, I believe, for Brian Burns. So I mean, he's pretty experienced to some degree over Spencer Brown, obviously. So I mean, I'm not really counting that. Yes, he did lose. Yes, he did get whipped, but he's showing promise, and that's what I like to see.
Exactly. Our guy Cody, who couldn't make it today, he said Bobby Hart's got naked pics of Bean's wife, and
Oh
who
Lord.
knows? Who knows, man? I don't know. I don't know why he keeps getting signed to this roster. But let's
Right.
move away from the offensive line and get into the wide receiver, because I think this is what people focus on. I mean, wide receiver is obviously the flashiest position group, and Gabe Davis has been on the tip of everyone's tongue, and this show is unfortunately, I had a lot of content based around Gabe Davis, but nixing him off for this week and next week, it's going to be tough. But let's get into a comment from Jason Taylor. So we're down Diggs, maybe Sander, McKenzie, Kumaro, Stevenson, and probably someone off the practice squad. This could be interesting. Down two, not down. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that looks like week one. That's
Yep.
that's where the silver lining for us. Although we didn't play well week one, it could be worse. Luckily, knock on wood, nobody else gets added to this list, and hopefully Sanders is trending. He went from limited to full, so that's great news. I was really excited to see him in the slot. I know a lot of people were talking about that. I know Jeremy was always a big proponent of seeing him play the slot. What are your thoughts on replacing Beasley and now Davis?
It's gonna be huge, man. I mean, you're talking about the second most targeted receiver on the team in Beasley, and you're talking about probably the hottest receiver in the last since week 11 in
He's the
Gabe
third
Davis.
highest graded wide receiver, right, in the last
There
couple
you go.
games.
Yeah, you took the words right out my mouth.
Sorry.
You're good. And then he got the most touchdown catches in that span, and then he's had the seventh highest passer rating when targeted in that span also. So I mean, these are two guys who are clearly key cogs. Obviously, Gabe was coming on. Like I said on Twitter, he was playing the best football of his career, of his very short career. But he was playing the best football of his career. And you take two guys out there that Josh Allen actually trusts and that he legitimately trusts. Now, as we will segue into what the Pats would do, it definitely puts more options on the table as to what the Pats can do on defense. And just from that perspective, so we're going to need guys like Knox to step up. You guys think Knox is on Gronk and Kittle and Kelsey's level, so this will be the time for him to show that he is on that level. He has 11 touchdown receptions, I believe. So he's having a heck of a year, but now they need him to be more consistent on a down-to-down basis, not drop the easy ones, which he did last game. He dropped some easy ones. So they need other people to step up. I like Sanders, and as you alluded to at the beginning, this is pretty much going back to the week one, starting receiving core that you had, at the beginning of the season against the Steelers. And so it's really not missing anything, but I think Cole Beasley's, shiftiness in the slot is definitely going to be missed.
Yeah, that's something that can't be overspoken. Is Cole Beasley's get open real quick over the middle, third down, and as you alluded to, Davis has been one of the more consistent targets for Josh. So you're losing two guys that they have been on the same page for most of the season. Now, obviously, Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. Him and Allen have a great rapport, but J.C. Jackson's no slump, and that Belichick is going to try to make you fight left-handed. So what's the easiest thing to do? Take away Diggs and make them beat you elsewhere. Now, I love that you brought up Knox because he's been acting in an ancillary role where he hasn't been getting the coverage rolled over. I think outside of maybe that Kansas City game, he hasn't really been the focal point. And even then, he didn't get a ton of targets. He just made a ton of plays. So, yeah, he's going to be a guy where they are vulnerable up the middle. I believe Duggar's back, so he's going to be a guy who's probably going to take over a share of covering a slot receiver or a tight end in that situation. But there is yards to be had, and we got Mookie in the comments over here saying bring Smoke Brown back. We've probably
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it either.
It.
But the only thing that kind of has me questioning that would be he's kind of floundered this year. He's gone to a couple teams. I'm sure they looked into it unless there was something that happened when he left the team. But outside of that, maybe he doesn't have it anymore. But it's something that I was at least looking forward to hearing them flipping the tires a little bit. Um, so you obviously laid out a bunch of guys who are going to have to step up. We all know it's the next man up mantra. But as far as, schemes, play calling, uh, personnel groupings, what do you think we're going to see from Buffalo?
Uh, I honestly, if I was to attack them, if it was me, I would still try to pass against them. They don't have their second best corner. They have JC Jackson, obviously still, but he's just one guy. And honestly, there really isn't a specific way to attack the Patriots just because they're stout in run defense and pass defense. They're the number one graded coverage team in the NFL and then ninth graded run defense team. So like there really isn't a way to stop them. But listen, if I'm gonna try, I would try. And I know Buffalo isn't as good as this. I know they're not good at doing this. They're not good at running the ball. We all know this. But I would go heavy. I would try to get some two tight end personnel sets and try to run this ball, man, because I'm trying to wait till we get to the defensive portion of it for New England, because I feel like that's what they're gonna do. Because you already alluded to how Belichick wants to play this, and due to the fact of how Belichick is gonna want to play this, I believe, I think the Bills. If there's a game that you're like, yo, we're gonna have to run the ball, we're gonna have to do it. This got to be the game right here. Bad O line, injuries everywhere, COVID ridden. This would be the game that I'm like, yo, if you're gonna put on your best rushing performance, I will make it this game. If it's a way you're gonna attack the Patriots. So to answer your question, I would like to see some heavier sets. If you're gonna try to spread them out, I really feel like that's just playing into their hands, honestly. And again, I'm gonna wait till we get to the defensive section, but that's what I would do if I was the Bills.
Yeah, EJ, we're on the same wavelength again. I'm right there with you. Maybe not heavy, but definitely a tight end. Bring on the fullback. Um, you're not beholden to just run the ball out of that set. A lot of people think, you line up in a more traditional or a heavy set, you're beholden to run the ball. We've seen Josh Allen's most successful plays come out of that, out of under center. A lot of play action. That's where Josh is his best at, I believe. Last week was that defined the game, where they hit a lot of those play action plays to the tight end. Sweeney had that drop. Davis had his touchdown at the end. A lot of these big plays are coming out of those formations. So I've been really looking forward to us to transition a little bit more out of the spread, especially now because, like you said, you don't have the horses to block. You don't have necessarily your top horses to run that spread offense. So why not break it down and be simple? I'm right there with you, man. If this is the game that you have to get a run game going, and I know you brought up the statistics of New England. Their last 3 games, they have 99 to us, 270 to the Titans, 260 to the Colts. Now, those are the 2 best running teams in the league, but Motor's got a little bit of momentum going. I believe the run blocking has been better as a whole, and I think this is one of those games where you'll take a 13 to 12, 13 to 10 game. Just get out there, make the game, optimize your possessions, score touchdowns, and play some defense. So before we transition to the defense, I just wanted to get your take on Singletary. Do you believe? Are you of the mind that he should be taking a majority of the snaps?
Most certainly. He's already taken a majority of the snaps. He currently has 43% of the carries right now. And with doing that, with that carry percentage, he's 10th in missed tackles forced, excuse me. And I think that's highly impressive, seeing as the run blocking is the 4th worst in the league as graded by Pro Football Focus. So he's having to do a lot of the work individually, independent of the online, despite being hit in the backfield and having to break so many tackles. So yes, he most certainly should be the lead back. And then on top of that, since week 12, I believe he is 11th in yards after contact, I think, per attempt with 3.5. So I mean, he's making people miss. He's gaining yards after contact, and on top of that, he had a touchdown run last week. He was clearly the most effective back that Buffalo had last week. I mean, I don't see anybody else who's taking advantage of these opportunities. Motor had his shot. I mean, excuse me, Moss had his shot, and Breida's kind of been just you know what I mean? Kind of how Breida's been his whole career. So, I mean, Devin Singletary has clearly put a stranglehold on the RB1 situation, and he deserves to be getting that 50 plus percentage snap share.
Yeah, I kind of feel stupid asking that question, but unfortunately, McDermott has really hammered home the two back mentality, and we've tried it, but we don't have that second back. Like you mentioned, Moss hasn't been able to get it done, and the film doesn't lie. When you feed Motor, he gets better. He's never optimal when you're only giving him 6-7 touches a game. You got to let him cook a little bit back there. You got to feed him the ball. Now, I'm not the type of person to say run the ball just for the sake of running. You need to pick your spots, and you need to set up that run. Specifically us, the Bills are not a team to manhandle guys up front, so they have to manufacture some of those yards, and they have to get some looks where they're getting these teams off kilter. So yeah, I'm right there with you as far as RB1. He's got to be the lead guy out there. And not to mention, he's getting a lot of targets out of the backfield as well, and that was always a weak spot of him. So let's move on to.
I just want to say one thing before you move on.
Sure.
And to Moss's point, like I said, the run blocking hasn't been great all year. Literally, like they're 17th best pass blocking team. Like I said, the 4th worst run blocking team. So I mean, I know good James Mallory's whole thing is good backs make a bad O line look better. But like in this case, like this O line in terms of run blocking is like bottom of the barrel. So that's why, Singletary's performance this year, and especially since week 11, has been even more impressive because the O line has been that bad in run blocking. In pass blocking is a different conversation, but in run blocking, they've been horrible. And same thing with Moss. I mean, he's also feeling the grunt of that bad blocking too. So like it's just not, his ineffectiveness is also due to another component, not just him.
Yeah, I mean, though in that specific situation, the stats and the film doesn't lie that this team is not a great run blocking team. Thought they did a little bit better the last few weeks, but Carolina is not a good team to stop the run. Luckily, New England, if they do have a weakness on defense, I believe it's trying to stop the run.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking of New England, what do you think the Patriots' approach will be on offense? I mean, this is a team that threw the ball 3 times. You couldn't even turn on ESPN for a week post New England Buffalo Monday night, because that's all it's all they talked about. Threw the ball 3 times. They ran the ball well. I'm not gonna take away that big run from him or from Harris, but they're a little bit banged up. I don't believe the Bills are necessarily a team that can't stop the run. It's just unfortunate there are some times where the running back leaks out. But back to the original question, what do you see the Patriots as far as their approach on offense?
So I'm trying to get into the head, the chess match that I love between McDermott and between Josh McDaniels / Bill Belichick, how I feel like this is going to go in my mind. So obviously Buffalo is not going to let them do that again. They are not going to let them just line up and run the ball 90% of the time and only throw 3 passes. So that's telling me that they're going to keep Jordan Poyer in the box. Sometimes they spin him up. Lots of times they spin him down and they have him blitz. I think that the Patriots are going to do the foolery. They're going to come out. I bet you they're going to come out in a heavy set, make it look like run, and they're going to play action them to death. Mac Jones is actually pretty good on play action, has a 70 PFF grade, 80% completion percentage on play action. So he's not a bad play action quarterback. I could see them trying to take advantage of the Bills' aggressiveness, because the Bills are going to make sure that they don't do that again, where they can just run the ball down their throats. Now, the other part of that is Mac Jones has 6 turnover-worthy plays in play action. And we know that if you are going to attack Buffalo, it has to be on the ground, because they're not giving up big plays in the air. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, this has been the best pass defense all year. Last 3 years, the Bills.
Hey, don't leave out Levi. Levi's solid all year, man.
Come on, man. Let's not go too far. Levi's been
solid all year.
Let's not go too far. But those are the cogs. Those are the dogs.
Of course.
Those 2 are the dogs. And we know that the last 3 years, Buffalo has given up the least amount of 20-plus yard plays in the passing game of any team. So you are not going to get big plays on them. So that means that Mac is going to dink and dunk his way down the field. Is he going to be able to be that patient? I just don't want to give this Bills defense many opportunities. If I'm the Patriots, that is, many opportunities to go and pick off Mac Jones or force him into something that he's not doing. He has 100
Yeah.
attempts. He has 100 pass attempts in the middle of the field, below 10 yards. So Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, those guys going to have to be on that game, and they have to force him to pass outside the numbers. They don't have their outside weapons this game. They're both questionable. So that tells me that Hunter Henry and John Smith are probably going to be a bigger part of this game. Like I originally thought the first time, I think that's going to happen. But that's kind of my thoughts as a Patriot on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and to your first point, as far as trying not to turn the ball over, the Bills are due. They've had a dry spell. They're due. A couple drop interceptions here, there. You know, they were taking the league by storm with their propensity to get turnovers. It's been a little dry. So what better week than this week to, get a couple more in our favor? And then to your point, they don't have, to the point about their weapons, they don't have the horses to beat us deep. Big playability. They don't Jonnu Smith is probably their fastest receiver, and he's a tight end. I mean, that guy, you see him run those jet sweeps and tunnel screens with him. I think he's going to be a guy that the Bills may need to look out because he's big, he's fast, he's strong. Hunter Henry has been great all year.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. These are guys that, when you're talking the Matt Milanos of the world and Tremaine Edmonds and even some of the safeties who are going to play down in the box, it's their time to step up. Because last game they played against the Patriots, there was going into the fourth quarter where they were driving and we held them to the field goal. They were just sending Matt Milano straight through gaps. He was just, I think he was just abandoning all responsibility. He was shooting gaps and he was making plays in the backfield. The way you combat that is play action. So you're right there. It's going to be something that Mac Jones is going to have to, really. You can't hide a rookie every single game. The only time I've ever seen it really happen was the Steelers with Roethlisberger. But outside of that, they're going to have to step up, and you either figure it out or you get figured out. And this is going to be a big game for him.
This is a game where I could easily see Buffalo obviously making an adjustment, first of all, and making Mac beat them, right? David Andrews is also hurt. It's questionable. Their center. That's huge.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, that running game, and then again, as we mentioned off air, Ramondre's hurt, Damian Harris is hurt, Brandon Bolden's hurt, all their backs are hurt. So their running game is taking a hit. So now if you're telling me that I'm gonna make Mac pass 25 to 30 times a game, I'm not confident in that against this defense now. This defense that is the best in the league at stopping the pass. So I'm not confident against that. So, it's going to be tough. I'm anxious to see what Mac Jones is going to do. And he has a propensity, to put the ball in harm's way. Now I will say this. He has the same PFF passing grade as Josh Allen for the season. Now, y'all take that for what it's worth. I know Bills Mafia hates PFF with all the might and guts in their heart, but it may be something to that because he'll take the easy completions. But I don't want to see him, if I'm New England, passing 35 times against this Bills secondary and Bills defense.
Yeah, I mean, you look at positionally outside of the first couple games for New England, they've put Mac Jones in favorable positions all year round.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to. Josh Allen, game in and game out, outside of the blowouts, but the second half of blowouts, he's had to. He's basically the production of the team for many of the games. So I can see, those stats may be true, but the fact is he's playing a total different game than Mac Jones. And to curtail off of that, Mac Jones, right now, don't forget how, down the line, next season, 3 years, right now, do you believe Mac Jones has what it takes to play without a league? To get his team back into a game that we didn't see. He got him back into the Colts game, but do you think he's the type of kid at this point in his career, he's going to be able to lead a comeback like that?
Here's the thing. I have faith in the coaching staff and the play calling more than I have faith in him. I don't think he's like Josh Allen. I have conceded that Josh Allen is unquestionably a top 5 quarterback in this league due to the fact this year that he has had to do so much despite that O-line, despite the injuries. He has had to do a lot. I don't think Matt can survive in a situation like Josh has. And I don't think Mac will mess it up, but I have more faith in his coaching staff that they'll put him, like you said, in favorable positions to not F it up. Therefore, I do have faith in Mac, but I have more faith in the coaching staff that they're not going to let him F it up. If everyone understands what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, football is not a one-man sport, so you need
Right.
support behind you. You got the 10 other guys next to you, and you're right. I mean, the coaching staff, they're very good at putting their quarterbacks in good favorable situations. Even look at last year, although they were a train wreck, they made that offense Cam Newton's offense. You know, this is something McDaniels does not. He has no track record working with a dual threat quarterback, and say what
Tim
you will,
Tebow.
well, that's true. That is true. Um, for that hot coffee,
Right.
but yeah, I guess successful would be the word.
Yes.
But let's move off of Mac Jones. What do you expect the Patriots' defensive game plan to be? And a piggyback question off of that: Do you think it'll change due to the COVID issues the Bills are having?
Absolutely. This is what I would do, and I believe this is what's going to happen in my heart. They're going to double digs. They're going to double digs, and they're going to make Sanders, Knox, and McKenzie and all these other pieces guys. They're going to make them beat them. You know, like you said at the top of the show. That's why I was waiting. You said at the top of the show, Belichick going to take what you do great and take it away from you. So why not play too deep, too high, like teams been doing against Buffalo all year, playing too high. You could play cover 4, double them every play if you want. Buffalo don't run the ball good anyway. So let the front 4, let the front 5 stop the run, because you have that much confidence in your defense up front that they can stop Buffalo's, running attack, because they don't run it and they don't block it up well. So why not double their best receiver and then take your chances one-on-one with all the rest of the other guys? I can see Belichick employing a game plan like that. And then going back to our original point about what we would do with the O-line. So then now you got, Matthew Judon one-on-one against Spencer Brown, or Matthew Judon one-on-one against Darrell Williams, if they choose to, move him out to tackle, or if they choose Tommy Doyle there, whoever. I must say, I like Matthew Judon in both those situations. He has 200 plus snaps on the left side and like 300 plus snaps on the right side. So he will move from right outside linebacker to left outside linebacker. So this is a favorable matchup on defense, for New England, and I could see them doing that, and it may go their way, man. But if there's a day, as we said again, if there's a day that the Buffalo needs to have their best rushing performance to get them out of that too deep shell, this would be that game.
Yeah, you're right on it. Take what the Bills do best, and I wouldn't even say Stephon Diggs is what the Bills have done best, but Josh Allen producing with his arm is what the Bills have done best. And right now, all arrows point to Stephon Diggs. So I think a lot of people will think that, like Chris was saying, that they would start to bring the pressure, but I think they're going to have so much confidence in their front 4 to get the pressure that they're going to say, hey, we're focused on taking Josh Allen out of this game, and the more you run the ball, the better our odds are, because 1, you don't run the ball well, and 2, the more you run the ball, the less Josh Allen has the ball in his hands. So I think, to sum it up, I don't think we're going to see a ton of pressure, because I think we're going to see a ton of pressure, but I don't think it's going to be because of the blitzing. I think they're going to bracket Diggs, whether or not it is that too deep shell or just having that safety over the top. It's going to be a tough ball game. People got to step up.
And you can pass them out of too deep. You can do that. You can play the patient game by, working these, underneath routes, but you don't have your underneath guy in Beasley. Or you guys are telling me that Knox is this top 5 tight end now. So again, this would be the guy to work the intermediate underneath levels. But we know Josh doesn't like playing that game. And like I said, teams play the Bills like they play the Chiefs. They're going to sit in that too deep shell, and they're gonna make you dink and dunk and be patient all the way up the field. And I don't know if Josh is gonna be willing to play that game. It seems like he's more willing these past couple weeks to, and he's having to do a lot more of off script magic. That's what I hate to see too. But I mean, I don't know if Josh is gonna be able to do it against this defense. You know, I don't know. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a nice, chess game between both coaches. But I'm anxious to see, if Josh is gonna be able to play that patient game and work it up the field without his horses.
I believe Josh will be able to move it up and down the field. The problem has never been that. It's been scoring in the red zone. And I think when you're talking about our weakness scoring in the red zone and their strength stopping touchdowns in the red zone. They're number one in the league stopping, in that red zone defense. So, I mean, we had how many opportunities to win that first game. We just couldn't get it done. I mean, that's been the story of the year. You get into a close game, can't punch it in the red zone, whether that's early on in the game, leading it to be close. Harken back to the Tennessee game where we kicked 2 field goals, Jacksonville kicking field goals. Those drives when we were unable to punch it in is what really brought us down. And then the handful of games where we were in it at the end and not able to score touchdowns. I mean, every game outside of that Colts game, we've had the ball inside the 20, the chance to win, and we just haven't been able to put it together. So, I got to say, EJ, we're not always on the same page, but for this game, for sure we are.
So I want to say that New England is favored by 2 points. And obviously that's Vegas telling me that they project this to be a super close game. And that's how I project it to be too, because now, like that last game, I don't want to say it was fluky, but there wasn't a lot you can take from it because the weather was definitely a factor as to how both teams called that game. This game, Buffalo's going to be able to play more of their game, more of the spread it out, pass the ball. But my only point is that Belichick knows that. So now he can play a regular game plan too. And we know that Josh is not a very patient quarterback when it comes to working it up the field. Obviously, we know the Bills can move it on anybody. They have a top 5 roster in the league. We know this. But, when you play Belichick, when you play this Patriots defense, as you said, Travis, they're going to make you play left-handed. Can the Bills play left-handed? Can the Bills have another answer in this equation by adding a running game? That would help tremendously, especially to your point you just made about them not scoring in the red zone.
Yeah, and I guess to wrap it all up, I'm sorry, but if you can't adjust on the fly and win another way, what's the point of making the playoffs? You're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not. You got to be able to there's no the margin of I don't know, talent in this league and success is very small. Other teams are going to know what you're bringing to the table, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to have an answer for what you're bringing. Very, very rarely does a team come and Jonathan Taylor down the throat. That happens, but it doesn't happen every week. The Bills need to be able to find another way to win, and if they can't do it against the Patriots, they're not going to be able to do it against teams that they've lost to already, and that's the Colts, and that's the Titans. And, KC, we beat them, but I think we can all agree they're a little bit of a different team right now, as far as, getting back on their stride and really finding their way on offense. But to close it out on our discussion about the Patriots, where do you believe the Patriots are most vulnerable on defense, and how do you believe the Bills are going to attack them?
If they're most vulnerable, I think it would be in man coverage. They play quite a bit of man coverage. The only cornerback that I would be confident on their team, because they don't have Juwan Williams. That's their second highest graded cornerback. They only have J.C. Jackson, who obviously is going to be lined up against Diggs. So if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to win some of these one-on-one battles when they go to man. So McKenzie's going to have to step up. Y'all boy, who y'all love, Dawson Knox, he's going to have to step up. Emmanuel Sanders, he's questionable, so his knee is still an issue. He's going to play. He's going to have to win more one-on-one matchups. They're going to have to find these one-on-one matchups and take advantage of them, because they're not going to let Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs had a lot of open grass last time. He got open a lot, and he was only singled up a lot too against J.C. Jackson, and he won a lot of those reps. So now they're not going to do that. And this, I feel that they're not going to do that this time. They're going to make these other guys who aren't used to being in these, high pressure, high volume roles. They're going to make you beat us, and you try to take advantage of these other corners. So, like I said, to answer your question, if there's a way that Buffalo is going to have to beat them or take advantage of whatever they do, they're going to have to take advantage of them when they play man coverage, and they're going to have to win one-on-one.
Yeah, I tend to agree with a lot of what you said. Um, one-on-one comes in many different shapes and sizes. A lot of times it'll come off of play action. So I'm going to go with the play action route where you see, like I mentioned earlier, Josh Allen's very successful in play action. I believe the linebacking core of the Patriots is one of the weaker parts of their defense. So having them get them sucked up, commit to the run, and then have guys like you said, Knox, find his way out over the middle, or maybe a wheel route, something like that. But you can't just do play action because you like doing it. You're going to have to give them a reason to defend it, and that comes back to running the ball. So I think whether it's starting off by, really establishing the run, or a run game, or loosen it up with a couple passes and then go to the run game, at some point early on, we're going to see if we're going to be able to move the ball on the ground. If they're going to give those, I mean, you mentioned last year, the one thing that we didn't bring up was there were times where they didn't even have linebackers on the field. They were running 7 DBs and maybe one linebacker. I don't think we're going to see that this year. The defense was totally different last year, and especially with a couple guys bumped up, they're playing a more balanced team in the Bills because, two of their biggest weapons are out. So it's going to be tough. But EJ, I'm interested in what you think one of the more interesting matchups are going to be in this Bills Patriots game.
I think it's going to be the Bills offensive line versus the front five of the Patriots. Again, as I said, I see the Patriots coming out playing too deep, doubling Stephon Diggs. And I said the easiest way to get a team out of running too deep is to run the football. Again, we know the Bills are not keen on running the football, or they can't run the football, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to throw in there. But that is the matchup that I think if they can win it, or if they can get a couple perfectly blocked plays together, that could swing the momentum of this game. And that is where I'm watching. In the trenches is probably where the game is going to be won and lost. You can say that about any game, but I think specifically for this game, that's where it could be won and lost.
You can certainly say it about any game, but I share your sentiments as far as the importance in this game, especially what happened last year. Your buddy James has a question for you. If you have the stats of Josh under center versus in shotgun, I'll let you think on that, and I'll give you my matchup. So I'm going to go with the Bills red zone offense versus the Patriots red zone defense. Like I mentioned ad nauseum, we mentioned here on the show basically every week, the lack of finishing drives for the Bills, specifically in the red zone, and the dominance of the Pats in the red zone on defense. This is a team that really has made all of their hay being a bend but don't break defense. They're opportunistic with turnovers, but they're also a team that forces you to kick field goals. They also have this ridiculous. I don't know if it's magic. I don't know if it's a hex, but the opposing kickers are making like only 68% of their field goals, or 60 something percent. It's the lowest by, I think, 10 or 15 units. So they're forcing teams to kick field goals, and they're not even making their kicks. So for me, I'm really going to really sit up off my couch and get into the gamer zone when I'm paying attention to the Bills in the red zone, because that's certainly where games are won and lost. So I don't know if you were able to pick up that stat for James. I know it's
I'm trying to look for it because there's so many. So I'm trying. I don't know if they have under center or in shotgun. Give me one more second.
All right. We got Chris over here. Trenches on both sides. We need our guys to be bullies this week. We do. I mean, I don't know if we have the bullies, but I like what Spencer Brown brings to the table. I wish John Feliciano was up for this game, because he is that type of dog, whether he plays well or not. Jason Taylor says the Pats D Is Mike Tyson our O-line? Is all the fighters that Tyson knocked out in the first round? Well, that may be the case, but I remember that one guy that beat him that came back after he was knocked down and came back to finish the job. Gave Mike the L. Let's be that guy. And yeah, we are going to be on the edge. It's going to be. I mean, this is what the season comes down to essentially.
Yeah, this game is going to be for the division, ain't it? Because if Buffalo wins, they'll be at the top of the division, right?
So the way it works is if the Bills lose, there's no way for them to win the division. Even if the Patriots lose out, if the Bills win out, they're going to win the division. If they win this game and a couple things happen afterwards and they end up losing, they could still win the division, but it's pretty clear, cut and dry. I know for speaking for myself, and I probably speak for you. I don't want any business with those wild card teams because two of them the Colts beat us. So one of either the Titans or the Colts are going to be a team that's going to supersede us there, even if we have the same record. And let's be honest, we've lost to a ton of AFC opponents, and that's not good in tiebreakers. So we got to win the division. That's the easiest way for us to make the play.
I don't like any, if the Bills are the last seed in the playoffs at the moment, I believe. I don't like any of the matchups that they got to play in the first round. If they had to play Cincinnati in the first round, I don't like that matchup for you because Cincinnati can do both. They can run and they can get big plays. And I don't. Who's the other wild card team? I can't think of it off the top of my. It's not Tennessee. I think it's Tennessee.
Well, Tennessee. I think we'd end up playing Tennessee.
Tennessee, right? I don't like that matchup either.
No.
I don't like that.
Well,
matchup either.
I don't either, but I'll take it without Henry. I honestly, I think I would rather play them over the Colts. The Colts are the one team. I'll take Baltimore all day. I'll take Kansas City. I don't want to see the Colts.
I ain't taking I won't get crazy. I ain't taking Kansas City neither, man, because like you said, they were a different team when Buffalo beat them.
No, I get you. I just think we match up a little bit better versus a team that tries to air it out. At least this year's, if we're gonna, like you mentioned, the number one pass defense team, I'll take my chances on that end. But by no means am I calling for it. I just don't want to see Indianapolis. Don't want to see him. Frank Wright, he's got his magic out for us.
Man.
But let's move on to the stat of the game. Give me one stat line that you're going to predict for this game.
I am going to predict that this is more goodwill, but I am going to predict that Devin Singletary gets 20 plus carries this game. That's going to be my stat.
You keep that number in your head, fresh in your head, because we're going to hear it a little bit later. Mac Jones turns the ball over 2 times. I don't know if it's going to be picks. I don't know if it's going to be fumbles, but I do think that he's going to have to make some plays. And like I mentioned, we've hit a dry spell. Those turnovers are due. So let's will that into existence.
I predicted him to have, my stat line was, I believe it was 17 for 21, 180 yards, a touchdown and interception for Mac Jones. So I do see him turn over once. I don't see
Let's
twice.
Get that fumble. All right. What's your key to victory for Buffalo?
For Buffalo, my key to victory is number one, like you said, they're going to have to take advantage of their scoring opportunities because they're probably not going to get many. So they're going to need to take advantage of them. Josh is going to have to be patient. That's my second key. Be patient, work the ball up the field methodically like Brady. Obviously, everyone isn't Brady. Everybody can't play that way, but I would like to see Josh play that way. Third key to the game is I will say it again, if Buffalo was to have a run game and to have their best rushing performance, it will be against the Patriots on Sunday at 1:00. So those are my 3 keys to victory. Take advantage of the scoring opportunities, patient Josh, running game.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me. I'm going to keep it simple. Just build the lead early. The best thing that you can do in order to affect the Patriots offense is to force them out of their element. We talked about it. It's like beating a dead horse. Make Mac Jones beat you. He's not going to have that many opportunities to need to beat you if they're already in the league. That's why that one big run on that Monday night game was huge. That totally took the wins out of our sails because the whole complexion of the game changed there. It went from a who's going to score first to let's see if you can catch them. And unfortunately, we were not able to catch them. Before we get to the 5-day forecast, give me your prediction.
Man, I done talk myself out of my original prediction. At the beginning of the year, I said that Buffalo would split with the Patriots. That was my prediction. Now, as I'm talking through this with you, I'm more in line to believe that it'll be like 21-17 Patriots, man. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
that's
No,
where I'm on it.
there is no reason to be sorry. First of all, it's the Patriots. Second of all, it's a division game.
Yeah.
You can't. It's hard to peg those games as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add in all the COVID, and it's only Friday. We still got to make it through
Yeah.
a day and a half to get to the game. Lord knows what'll happen. But I'm going to stick with my original prediction. Honestly, I believe it's a toss up, and I think it's going to come down to who makes less mistakes. And generally speaking, it is the Patriots, but I'm going to give it to our Bills, 27-20. I think it's going to be a close game going into the 4 or 5 minute mark, and then where the Bills normally ended up settling for field goals, I think they're going to be able to punch it through, get that 7-point lead, and the rest is history from there. So before we get out of here, EJ, we're going to do our Friday night forecast or 5-day forecast. So just remember, if you think that the take that I give you is going to happen, just let it be known that it's clear. If you don't think it's going to happen, let it know it's cloudy. So number one, I already know because you answered it. Singletary has at least 20 total touches.
Clear.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Mm.
He's been catching some balls out of the backfield. I think he had 22 rushes last week, and I do believe he's going to be a big part of the game because I think McDermott I'm not going to say he's a conservative coach, but he likes to keep the game close. He likes to be able to lean on his defense, keep the game close, and I think running the ball is going to be big in that
No, he's
aspect.
definitely a conservative coach. There is no question about it. He is definitely a conservative coach. There's Brandon Staley and then there's Sean McDermott.
I think there are way more conservative coaches than McDermott. I'm not there. I think he's more of the middle ground, but that's a discussion for another day. Patriots have at least 30 rushing attempts.
That's cloudy. I don't see that happening. Because again, as I said to start the show off, Buffalo is not going to let them do that again. There is no way anybody on that defense is going to let them do that again. And I think that the passing game will be more efficient for Buffalo this game. I am trusting Josh that he'll be more patient and be able to work the ball down the field. So therefore, I don't feel game script wise it's just going to be conducive to them having 30 rushing attempts. So that's cloudy for me.
Yeah, and the way the game I see playing out is hopefully the Bills build somewhat of a lead early on and they're able to get them out of rushing. But like you mentioned, if a couple of their guys can't go, I mean, I'm not too sure Bill Belichick is going to be trusting a practice squad back to take some of the reps because their top 3 guys are hurt. So I'm going to go cloudy as well. I don't believe that's they're going to run 30 times again. Allen scores at least 1 pass touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown.
Definitely clear. That's about what he averages for the year. So
1-1.
I mean, yeah, he that's how he gets his. That's how he eats. He's gonna get you 1 through the ground, 1 through the air. Josh is a top 5 quarterback, hands down, unquestionable. So that
You heard it.
should be what he's doing. 1 touchdown through the
Quote
air.
him.
I have backed off my take. I was on Dak as better than Josh, but after this year, Josh has sold me top 5 quarterback. So that all should always be his stat line: 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. Clear.
And when the rubber meets the road and he's in those high pressure moments, he likes to take off. He likes to reach for that pylon. So
Right.
I'm going to say clear as well. I expect, like I mentioned earlier, I expect there to be 3 touchdowns, and I think you're going to get 1 of each, maybe 2. Moving on to our next question here. No plays for over 30 yards from either team. No big plays.
I don't see that. I don't see any big plays like that. Maybe a 20-plus yard play. Definitely not no 30-yard
Not a
play.
30.
No.
So
Was
you're
it
going clear?
cloudy? Cloudy. I'm sorry.
No. So my question was no plays over. So
Oh,
clear.
no
You're
plays.
clear.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Clear. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm right there with you as well. I don't see any big runs. I think the Bills are going to make a focus on stopping the run. And for whatever reason, the Bills have been very quiet. They've made some big plays as far as 25. They've had a handful of 25, 30 yards, maybe even 40, but we haven't seen those big, deep shots. We haven't connected on them. And, I don't foresee it happening in this game, especially like we mentioned, if they're going to bracket Diggs or they're going to run that cover two or that shell man free or whatever they're going to end up doing with those safeties. I don't think we see a big play like that. And finally, both teams have over 100 yards rushing.
Nah, I'm not betting on the Bills to have 100 yards rushing. This is me wishfully thinking that they run the ball that much. Now, obviously, we know as people who watch the Bills avidly that they struggle running the ball and don't do it at all. They actually got by against what was that, Tampa Bay, only running once and a half. So
Yeah.
I am not running once with a running back and a half. Excuse me. So I am not banking on that at all. So I'm gonna go. Was that clear
Even
or
even
cloudy?
even if I didn't say running back.
I'm not, Trav. I'm not taking that bet.
Okay.
I would not take that at
Okay.
all. That's not a safe bet for Buffalo, for a team that just really disregards the run. I can't do that.
So I'm going to go clear because I think seeing Josh get 50 yards and Singletary getting 50 yards is reasonable. If we were to say running backs, I'd say no. But I'm going to go clear on the fact that I think Josh Allen is going to be pressing a little bit, and if he get, especially if there's pressure, I think the outside of Tampa Bay kind of not blitzing as much in the second half, I thought it was very clear to him that if he didn't see his first read,
He
he
was out.
counted to 3 and he was out. Yeah, exactly. So
He was out.
hopefully, hopefully, if there is pressure, he resorts to that a little earlier rather than the mid third quarter. But I think it's reasonable. I hear what you're saying, and I know we're both wishfully hoping that we run the ball, but I could also see it going the other way. But other than that's it for the show. EJ, why don't you send us out with your final thoughts? Anything you want to say?
I just want to say that Buffalo is still in a great position. Even if they don't win this game, they still, as I tell everyone on Twitter constantly, they still have a top 5 roster, top 5 situation. COVID sucks and it's kind of, grabbed the Bills' best players, which is very unfortunate, but they still have a lot of talent on this roster. And then they have a top 5 quarterback on top of that and a top 5 defense. And that matters in this league. You have a quarterback that can get a lot of off script magic, a lot of off script plays, a lot of big chunk plays. And then you have a defense that's solid across the board. So they're still in a good spot. So like I said, even if the Bills don't win this game, I still feel like they're going to be in a good position. I feel like they can only get better. Hopefully they make more of an emphasis on trying to run the ball, but just want the overall sentiment to be like, even if Buffalo wins or doesn't win this.
Yeah, great. I can't argue with that. I think I'm right there with you. There's got to be a point. We saw Baltimore when they went up against Green Bay. Backup quarterback, hampered by injury or COVID. You saw Cleveland take, albeit Las Vegas, to the wire. I think the Bills are going to have to really go outside of their comfort zone to pull this victory out. I don't think it's going to come easy, obviously, whether they're at full strength or not. But hopefully they play with a little bit of chip on their shoulder. I'm a little less confident if they lose this game only because of the teams that we're kind of packed in with. But that's not to say that I don't believe that they have that top 5 roster, like EJ alluded to. It just may not be their year. Hopefully they're able to pull this one out, and it will say a lot about the character of the team, the coaches, and the players if they're able to overcome this adversity. I've been licking my chops since the loss on Monday night, and I thought from what we saw, we didn't see a lot, but I thought we'd have this team, and unfortunately, the circumstances aren't going to be great. But hey, that's why we play the game. The next man up has never rung more true than now. But that's going to do it for the show. Thank you for everyone for coming and watching, and all the comments in the comment section. EJ, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure. If you can like, subscribe, share, we're going to get this up on the audio feeds either later tonight, early next morning. And we forgot to say it, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Go Bills.
Trav, what do you hoping Santa brings you?
What is I honestly would like Twitter to just disappear. Not because
wow,
nothing
that's tough,
nothing
bro.
nothing football related, but I just think with COVID, disappear until COVID's, no longer what it is, because man, it's getting depressing out there. We just always have to remember, chances are if you meet somebody in public, you're going to get along with them, but we're sworn enemies on the internet. I think everyone just needs to be a little bit nicer and, pay your mind and your respects to other people's thoughts and opinions, and don't take the bait, man. There's people out there trying to gaslight everybody. Just don't take it. Just ignore it.
I feel like you're talking to me, man. I've been
No, EJ, you're the least of my concern there.
I was just joking, but I feel like I'll be little off the hinge on Twitter, but
Yeah,
people be
but
doing that to me,
the
man.
thing is, you're keeping it professional. You're keeping it to ball. Everyone's talking about all this outside noise. I don't got time for it anymore.
Yeah, word. I feel you.
But yep, that'll do it. Thank you again, EJ, and as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.